Calvin Remembers the Winnipeg General Strike is a 4-week project that commemorates the 100th anniversary of the strike, which was the largest labor action in Canadian history. So the way the project began was my students were introduced to strike historiography by reading various writings by strike experts. They also watched video like Canada's People's History and CBC's documentary Bloody Saturday. And we analyzed the photographs of L.B. Foote because he took some exceptional black and white pictures of Winnipeg during the First World War and then during the strike. So with all that information, they got a much better understanding of the various historical forces that led to the beginning of the strike. They developed a focus question for their project, and they were required to use the historical thinking concepts while investigating the past. Eventually, they showcased their projects on May 15th, 2019, which was the 100th anniversary of the first day of the strike. And my students created some incredible art, poetry, beautiful commemorative banner, a model of an old streetcar and the old city hall, and other symbols of remembrance that they put in the school's hallways. They also wore costumes. So some of the students dressed up like strikers. Other students dressed up as special constables. Others dressed up as members of Winnipeg's upper class. And they walked through the hallways and they carried signs and they chanted slogans like yelling things like "Down with Bolshevism" or "Prison bars cannot confine ideas." Eventually, the students presented their projects to each other, but also to other students in the school and other teachers in the school in our school library. And then we had guest speakers who came for the day. So the commemorative day was really successful overall. But another big part of the project was I required that my students engaged within their community and to get outside of Calvin. My students joined me on a tour of the Manitoba Museum and a specific exhibit that had been established to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the strike. When we were down there, they met Danny Scher, and we had a question and answer period with him. Danny was the writer and producer of the musical Strike. So we took them to the spot of Bloody Saturday, to the Vulcan Ironworks factory, to the CPR station, Old Market Square, Portage and Main. In various of these spots, my students read eyewitness accounts in English and in French, in some cases, of some of the moments that happened in the particular spot. I think history really became relevant for them because they were outside of the classroom. They were learning about their city. They were having these authentic experiences, and the past was coming alive, and this just fostered this love for local history. I think the past informs the present, and this project really showed that. My students just learned so much about their city, the city that they live in, and how it's evolved over time, and how there's still a class divide and a geographical divide. I think history is also really important because it develops empathy for those who are less privileged, and this project certainly did that. It exposed them to social action causes. It also, I think, provides inspiration. So they learned about historical figures like Helen Armstrong or Edith Hancock or J.S. Wordsworth. And these historical actors became models for some of my students in terms of how they might, at some point in their lives, take social action. And then I guess the last thing I would say is that I think history is just so important in terms of skill development. We live in a world where we still need young people who can write succinctly, who can be articulate, who can research effectively, and who can think critically. And now, maybe more than ever, we need a citizenry that is intelligent and who can assess sources, whether they are news sources, whether they're books, whether it is the rhetoric of people in positions of power. That's so important. And as we watch democratic institutions being eroded around the world, and we see the rise of populist nationalist movements, this becomes that much more important. So I think there's a real argument, obviously unbiased, for a history class in order to ultimately preserve democracy.